Louisiana. Good rainy morning to you. We are bringing you another day of Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate, our local source of journalism and news reporting. They put out the paper every day, and we come to AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, and AOC's YouTube for you between the hours of 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. every Monday through Friday. And we are so fortunate to be joined this morning by our volunteer newsreader, our committed, dedicated volunteer newsreader, Mr. Bruce Cohen. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Mr. Matt.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm fine on this rainy morning. It is definitely outside my window. The drops are falling, so it's good for the plants. The plants are all happy and smiling.
That is right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go smile and listen to Cypress Street Radio as you deliver that beautiful news to us, Bruce. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you so much, Engineer Matt. All right, folks. Well, starting off this morning, of course, more news about coronavirus. Lafayette Parish outbreak worsens. 60 new cases were recorded on Wednesday by Ben Meyer, staff writer. Lafayette Parish's coronavirus outbreak continued to worsen Wednesday, with 60 new cases reported. More cases have been reported in Lafayette Parish since June 20th than any other 5-day period. An additional 20 cases were added from old test results. The positive test rate of 8.9% in that span is nearly double the parish's overall positive test rate. COVID-19 hospitalizations in the 7-parish area around Lafayette has more than doubled in 2 weeks, including a 39% increase in 5 days, although there was one fewer COVID-19 inpatient Wednesday than the previous day. There were 79 COVID-19 inpatients in state's Region 4 on Wednesday, up from 38 on June 10th. Elsewhere in Region 4, looked more stable on Wednesday. 5 parishes, Evangeline, Iberia, St. Landry, St. Martin, and Vermilion, reporting new cases in the single digits. Acadia Parish, which added 20 cases Wednesday, continues to stand out as a hot spot with a 357% increase over the past 6 weeks, from 151 on May 13th to 726 on Wednesday, and a parish with a population of about 62,000. There were 97 new cases recorded Wednesday in Region 4, and another 30 from old test. The combined positive test rate is 5.7%, aligned with the region's overall positive rate. The Wednesday tally followed the day in which Region 4 recorded by far its most cases on a single day, with 354. Governor John Bel Edwards announced Monday that he would not move Louisiana into Phase 3 of reopening, in part because of increasing community spread in the Lafayette area. Parish officials are free to impose tighter local restrictions than what is in the state order, which requires most retail businesses to operate at no more than 50% capacity. Lafayette Parish Mayor President Josh Guillory on June 19th said he is open to the idea of tighter local restrictions, but that he was not considering anything along those lines at present. Guillory has previously pushed for local control in the other direction. On April 23rd, when Lafayette had relatively few cases compared with other parts of the state, Guillory asked Edwards in a letter to please consider implementing a policy that takes into account the differences in the situation facing parishes across the state. Guillory did not respond to a Wednesday morning query as to his thinking about local restrictions. More news on the Josh Guillory front. Guillory pressed on statue police. Official announcements could be forthcoming by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Lafayette Mayor President Josh Guillory at a town hall meeting Wednesday where he was asked what he's going to address racial injustice and the Confederate statue downtown, said he may have an announcement in a week or two. Resident Peter Savoca asked Guillory if he has plans to hold Lafayette police officers accountable for potential civil rights violations, and if he's going to remove the statue of Confederate General Alfred Mouton, a slave owner, from a prominent spot on city property. The statue was erected in 1922 by the United Daughters of the Confederacy and donated to the city. When officials planned to move the statue of the current city hall in 1980, the group sued. A settlement was reached with the city, and a permanent injunction was issued barring its removal. In 2019, members of Move the Mindset filed legal documents to intervene so that the statue may be removed. A court hearing is set for August. Guillory said he has to respect the rule of law as mayor president, but as a person, he understands the statue is hurtful to some. I'm questioning how much good that statue does, he said. I definitely can see how it hurts people and what it represents. Guillory said he is in deep conversations with many people involved, and he's confident a peaceful solution will be found. Stand by, he said. I'll have more to announce in the next week or two. While it was unclear if Guillory was specifically speaking about the statue or race issues in general, his chief communications officer, Jamie Angel, said afterwards he believes Guillory was referring to an announcement about both. Matthew Humphrey, president of PFLAG, asked Guillory to keep an eye on a Lafayette police investigation involving an attack on an openly gay man. Holden White, 18, was tortured Saturday night, allegedly by a man he met on the dating site Grindr. White was stabbed 6 times in the neck and strangled with a cord or rope, Humphrey said. Every blood vessel in his head and face ruptured as a result. His wrists were cut so deep his hands were nearly severed, he said. White is recovering at Lafayette General Medical Center. The suspect, Chance Seneca, 19, was charged with attempted second-degree murder and is being held in jail with bail set at $250,000. Humphrey, speaking on behalf of White's family, friends, and supporters, said within 24 hours, police officers said they will not classify the incident as a hate crime. The family, he said, also wants the charge upgraded to attempted first-degree murder. He questioned the $250,000 bail. White's family wants Seneca held without bail, he said. Crack possession carries that sometimes, Humphrey said. If he can come up with $25,000, he's back on the street, potentially doing this to somebody else. Guillory, an attorney, suggested the family meet with the district attorney to discuss bail and details of the case. It's not unusual, he said, for the district attorney's office to ask a judge to increase the bail and to upgrade charges. Copter resumes development of single-engine helicopter, model to be manufactured in Lafayette by Adam Daigle, Acadiana business editor. Copter, and that's spelled with a K, K-O-P-T-E-R, Copter AG Group, has begun flight test activities in Italy on the SH-09 single-engine helicopter, the model the company will eventually manufacture at its Lafayette plant. The company announced Wednesday it resumed work on its third prototype, designated as the P3, and the Italian coastal city of Pozzallo last week after flight test and prototype maintenance teams arrived earlier this month. Work has been halted since March 10th due to COVID-19. We are very pleased to be back in Pozzallo to resume our work on the P3 copter, Chief Test Pilot Richard Grant said. The first few flights have been used to refamiliarize ourselves with the operation and to complete some essential training for flight crew and ground staff. There has even been the opportunity to train new team members. Good progress has been made, and we are ready to start our experimental flights. The testing has allowed staff to assess the model's new main rotor configuration, officials said. Since January, the P3 has been flying with a modified main rotor head and next generation rotor blades, which optimizes the helicopter's behavior and reduces the pilot's workload during flight. More work remains on the model, including a new tail rotor hub design that is undergoing testing in Switzerland and other enhancements. Engineering teams are working on designs for the P3 along with the fourth prototype. Copter, which was acquired by Italian aerospace company Leonardo in April for $185 million, but will remain an autonomous division within the company, will eventually manufacture the SH-09 model at its facility near the Lafayette Regional Airport. Plans to employ 125 people by 2025. Leonardo opened its Gulf of Mexico support center at Broussard last year. The SH-09 is a real game changer, addressing evolving needs and delivering more capabilities at competitive costs, the company said in a statement. The end-to-end digitalization of the SH-09 program will be a key enabler. Study, dredging Vermilion would have little Lafayette impact by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Dredging the Vermilion River would do little to reduce flooding in Lafayette Parish and would do little harm to buildings downstream, a study by the Louisiana Watershed Flood Center at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette suggests. Findings of the study authorized by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and previously released in February were briefly presented Wednesday to the Louisiana Watershed Initiative Region 5 Steering Committee in Lafayette. Mark Wingate, Deputy District Attorney for Programs and Project Management with the Corps of New Orleans, said when word got out a few years ago after the massive 2016 flood that he was going to ask for federal money for dredging. He received calls from Vermilion Parish residents and officials concerned that dredging the river in Lafayette would flood them to the south. At that time, Wingate said he promised not to request dredging funds until a study was done on the impact on Vermilion Parish. That led to the UL study. UL researchers used a model they had already created of the Vermilion River to model the impacts dredging the river from Bayou Fuselier to Vermilion Bay would have during a 10-year storm and a 100-year storm like the August 2016 deluge. They also modeled the impact of dredging just in Lafayette Parish, he said. The models, Wingate said, showed very low impact in all scenarios. No negative and not much positive, he said. Partial dredging in Lafayette Parish would cost about $50 million, while full-scale dredging would cost about $150 million or more, Wingate said, with modest impact on lowering the flood stage of the river. Increasing the cost is the fact that the dredged material would have to be loaded onto barges and trucks and disposed of on land governments in Lafayette and Vermilion parishes would provide. Dredging the entire length of the river would produce enough material to fill the Cajun Dome 5.5 times, according to Jeffrey Verasco, Senior Project Manager with the Corps' New Orleans District. It would lower the river on average less than a foot, preventing the flooding of 327 homes that flooded in 2016. When Wingate and Congressman Clay Higgins of Lafayette in February announced the study's results, Wingate said dredging the entire river would prevent the flooding of 175 to 200 Lafayette Parish homes that flooded in 2016. Imad Habib, UL professor of civil engineering with the Louisiana Watershed Flood Center, said the modeling of the 2016 flood shows the river has a good slope north of Lafayette, but has a bump at Lafayette due to shoaling. In addition, 4 or 5 major coulees dump water into the river simultaneously during heavy rainfall. Combined, he said they can make the river flow north, creating flooding in Lafayette Parish. Dredging the river can make the channel bigger, Habib said, but it would fill with rainwater quickly in a 2016-like event. 1 inch of rain falling across the watershed equals 50 million cubic yards of water. The main solution, he said, is to hold the water back from entering the river. Higgins concluded the presentation by suggesting additional modeling of flooding scenarios based upon the observations and suggestions of longtime Lafayette residents such as Dave Dixon and Harold Schofler of the group Dredge the Vermilion. The study results are expected to be published soon. Meanwhile, Fresco said the Corps is drafting a memo of understanding with the Louisiana Watershed Initiative, committing the federal agency to share models and other information with the state. The Watershed Initiative was formed after the 2016 flood. The goal is to study floodplain management and multi-parish reports based on watersheds instead of political boundaries, and to build projects or procedures for water management regionally. Okay, let's look at a couple of public service announcements this morning. Camp Unique, Dreams Foundation. Every summer, the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana hosts the greatest camp of all, Camp Unique. Camp Unique is suited for individuals with special needs. Camp Unique will be held this year, July 13th through 17th, for ages 5 through 13, and July 20 through 24th for ages 14 and up. The fee will be $75, and the theme this year is Peace and Love. All Camp Unique sessions will be held at Lark's Acadian Village. Individuals of all ages have a blast participating in a camp that is specifically tailored to them. They get the opportunity to take part in activities such as art, fitness, karaoke, music, and dance, as well as getting a Camp Unique t-shirt and a snack every day. A highlight of Camp Unique this year will be the storytelling session by Chief Greyhawk Perkins, commented Dreams Foundation Executive Director Danielle Watkins. As a recognized expert on Native American and American colonial history, Perkins has inspired many audiences over the years, sharing tales of ancient cultures such as a tribal storyteller and as a teacher of various subjects in Louisiana's school system. The registration form from Camp Unique can be found on the Dreams Foundation of Acadiana website, which is dreamsfoundationaca.org. Volunteers are also being sought at this time, so if you're interested in volunteer for this very special camp, please complete the application on the Dreams website under the Volunteer tab. For more information about Camp Unique, you can contact Danielle Watkins by email at Danielle, that's D as in daughter, ONIELLE, at dreamsfoundationaca.org, or by phone at 337-962-1609, that's 962-1609. Vitalant begins testing all blood donations for antibodies to COVID-19. Vitalant became the first national blood bank to test all blood donations for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. The nation's largest independent nonprofit blood collector, serving hospital patients in South Louisiana, is providing the test results to donors who complete successful blood donations, which are critically needed now. The antibody tests authorized by the FDA will indicate if the donor's immune system has produced antibodies to the virus, regardless of whether they ever showed symptoms. It is possible that over time, the broad use of antibody tests and clinical follow-up will provide the medical community with more information on whether a person who has recovered from COVID-19 is at a low risk of infection, and if so, for how long. For more information, you can visit vitalant.org/COVID-free, or if you're interested in becoming a donor, appointments are strongly recommended. So you can also visit Vitalant, that's vitalant.org, or call 877-258-4825. That's 877-258-4825. AOC teams up with the United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have the internet but do have a television. The Learn United programs air weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For the daily schedule and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website. That's unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. And going back into the news, you are wrapping up search for dean. Announcement of business college leader expected in July by Ken Stickney, staff writer. The University of Lafayette, the University of Louisiana in Lafayette may have a new permanent business dean soon. Provost Jamie L. Hebert said plans call for an announcement to be made in July. The Moody College of Business has conducted a national search to seek a permanent replacement for Brent Becton, who served as dean for 3 years. He resigned a year ago to become business dean at the University of Southern Mississippi, his alma mater, Hebert said. Geraldine Franklin has served as interim dean since summer of 2019, temporarily replacing Becton while the university conducted a national search. We are in the process of completing that search now, Hebert said in an emailed message on Wednesday. We were delayed a bit due to travel and visitation restrictions associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. We intend to have a permanent dean announced in July. A campus spokesman confirmed that some finalists for the position were on campus this week. Franklin's appointment as interim is set to conclude at the end of the month. UL Lafayette President E. Joseph Savoy has requested the UL System office extend her contract until August 15th to help with the transition. The system board members were scheduled to handle the request at their Thursday meeting. Okay, going back to some coronavirus news, which I'm sure you want to hear about. Outbreaks among young adults can put elders at risk by Andrea Gallo, staff writer. Drink specials, dance floors, and summer celebrations and their allure for 20-somethings who have been cooped up inside for months may have been the coronavirus's secret weapons and mounting a resurgence in Louisiana. Cases are on the rise, especially among people under 30, with clusters of outbreaks now traced to bars near LSU and Baton Rouge and graduation parties in New Orleans. The state has reported 9,250 cases between the ages of 18 and 29, the highest number of cases within any age demographic in the state, now accounting for 18% of cases across Louisiana. Stopping outbreaks among the young can be a particular challenge for health officials because younger people often experience milder cases of coronavirus, perhaps some fevers, coughs, and fatigue, instead of the life or death consequences that coronavirus can carry for older and sicker people. The prospect of hospitalization or even death is often enough to keep older people locked down, but it's hard to convince younger people to stay home if they'll barely crack a 99-degree temperature after a positive coronavirus test. The problem, of course, is that young people get around and they bring the virus with them. The concern is, will it translate to further spread beyond that age demographic, said Dr. Joe Cantor, the Louisiana Department of Health's medical director for the New Orleans region. We have no reason to think that it won't. The nation's top infectious disease doctor, Anthony Fauci, warned the U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee on Tuesday that young people need to be more cautious about their actions during the pandemic for the sake of themselves and others. Studies show that the coronavirus is often transmitted between people living under the same roof. A younger person with a mild or even asymptomatic case of coronavirus can still easily pass it to a parent, grandparent, or another person who would face a much tougher time shaking off the virus, said Dr. William Lenars, the pediatrics system chair for Ochsner Health. And though it's rare, young people are not immune from harsher consequences. In Louisiana, 68 people under the age of 40 have died from the virus, and many more have suffered severe coronavirus cases that have left them hospitalized. Fauci noted that the nation is seeing more and more complications in young people. Among the young who ended up hospitalized with coronavirus, Courtney Butler, 27, of Baton Rouge. She spent several days in late March in the hospital, needing oxygen to help her breathe and getting treatment for nausea, dehydration, and a urinary tract infection, she said. And a few days after she went home, she was hospitalized a second time, still feeling nauseous and sick. During her second hospital stay, she said doctors discovered lingering kidney problems, which she said may have made her coronavirus worse. She said it's frustrating to see people her age congregating at bars and restaurants with little thought to the risk of coronavirus, but she's empathetic. Before I had COVID, I made light of it as well, said Butler, who recently graduated from LSU with a master's degree in social work. The severity of COVID didn't hit me until I got COVID myself. Dr. Ruben Patel, the founder and CEO of Patients Plus Urgent Care of Baton Rouge, said the clinic saw an explosion in positive coronavirus cases connected to young people around LSU last week. He said his 6 clinics have tested more than 250 people over the past week, many who said they had been at LSU bars or at high school parties. More than 20% were positive for coronavirus, he said. Statewide, under 10% of tests have been coming back positive. Most of the young people visiting the Baton Rouge clinics had mild cases with classic coronavirus symptoms: fever, cough, headaches, loss of smell and taste. Department of Health officials have reported that more than 100 people have tested positive for coronavirus after visiting bars in the Tigerland area over the weekend of June 14th. Fred's in Tigerland will host drive-through coronavirus testing from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday for college students and staff for nearby bars. The department has also traced at least 25 cases to a series of parties connected to a June 8th graduation celebration in New Orleans for Isidore Newman School students and their parents. Cantor said officials are keeping a close eye on signs that coronavirus is spreading from younger people to older people in their circles. Signs that might be happening, which would include hospitalizations going up among older people and more of them needing ventilators, he said. These teenagers, college-age students, they feel like they can catch the virus and be fine, Patel said, but that is not the issue. They transmit the virus to older people. Older people are the ones who are going to suffer and have grave consequences. You have to think of other people, he added. That's the take-home message. Patel, Cantor, and Lenars also warned against the notion, bandied about on social media, that young people should try to acquire coronavirus to help build herd immunity for the population as a whole, just as many parents used to purposely expose their children to chickenpox. When parents threw a chickenpox party for the kids, the parents rarely got affected because most of them had already had it as children and were thus immune, Cantor said. Coronavirus is much more dangerous because there's no segment of the population with herd immunity, he said. That pathway would result in lots of people being hospitalized and lots of people dying, Lennar said. Unlike chickenpox, which generally confers lifelong immunity to the infected, it's unclear how much protection antibodies from the coronavirus afford to people who've had it in the past. The coronavirus could also mutate like the flu does every year, rendering antibodies less effective, Patel said. The long-term effects for people with coronavirus are also still unclear. Butler has mostly moved on and has turned her attention toward her kidneys, but Alex Johnson, 29, says she still has not shaken off her bout with coronavirus months later. Johnson, who lives in New Orleans, used to go rock climbing 3 times a week. Now she says she can barely do any physical activity without her heart rate spiking. Johnson first noticed symptoms in late March and went to an emergency room with dizziness, shortness of breath, and chest pain. She tested negative for coronavirus, but said doctors told her they believed it was a false negative and treated her as if she had the virus. They sent her home and called daily to check up on her as she developed pneumonia and battled a fever for 20 days. She's still coughing and now regularly sees a pulmonologist, cardiologist, and her primary care doctor. She said she wanted to speak out about her experience because she worries that other people her age aren't taking the virus seriously enough. When you're that sick, it's terrifying, she said. Okay, it's almost a half-hour break, so I'll read a couple more public service announcements, and then we'll get to the day in history, the zodiac or horoscope, as I refer to it, and the funerals in the Kiliana area today. Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline. If you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding the public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7, and all calls are confidential. You can call 1-866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. Locally, Stop the Spread call instead, #Stop the Spread. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, you can call 311 or you can visit online 311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner, employee, or looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, applying for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Medicaid resources. If you have lost your job or if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 1-888-342-6207 or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid P.O. Box 91283, Baton Rouge, LA 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed due to the pandemic. If additional assistance is needed, you can call again 888-342-6207. All right, this day in history. Today is Thursday, June 25th, the 177th day of 2020. There are 189 potential shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history on June 27th, 1876. Lieutenant Colonel George A. Custer and his 7th Cavalry were wiped out by Sioux and Cheyenne Indians in the Battle of Little Bighorn in Montana. Also in this date, in 1788, Virginia ratified the U.S. Constitution. In 1867, barbed wire was patented by Lucian B. Smith of Kent, Ohio. In 1910, President William Howard Taft signed the White Slave Traffic Act, more popularly known as the Mann Act, and that's MANN, which made it illegal to transport women across state lines for immoral purposes. In 1942, General Dwight D. Eisenhower was designated Commander General of the European Theater of Operations during World War II. Some 1,000 British Royal Air Force bombers raided Bremen, Germany on this date. In 1947, The Diary of a Young Girl, the personal journal of Anne Frank, a German-born Jewish girl hiding with her family from the Nazis in Amsterdam during World War II, was first published. In 1950, a war broke out in Korea as forces from the Communist North invaded the South. In 1973, the former White House counsel John W. Dean began testifying before the Senate Watergate Committee, implicating top administration officials, including President Richard Nixon, as well as himself, in the Watergate scandal and cover-up. In 1990, the U.S. Supreme Court, in its first right-toddy decision, ruled that family members can be barred from ending the lives of persistently comatose relatives who had not made their wishes known conclusively. In 2003, the Recording Industry Association of America threatened to sue hundreds of individual computer users who were illegally sharing music files online. 10 years ago, a group of 8 leaders, including President Barack Obama, began meeting in Huntsville, Ontario, Canada. BP said its efforts to drill a relief well through 2.5 miles of rock to stop the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico was on target for completion by mid-August. 5 years ago on this day, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld nationwide tax subsidies under President Barack Obama's health care overhaul in a 6-3 ruling that preserved health insurance for millions of Americans. 1 year ago, Stephanie Grisham, longtime spokeswoman and confidant to Melania Trump, was named to succeed Sarah Sanders Huckabee as White House press secretary. She would hold the job for 9 months without ever conducting a formal briefing for reporters. Looking at the birthdays today, we have actress June Lockhart is 95 years old. Go June. Civil rights activist James Meredith is 87. Rhythm and blues singer Eddie Floyd is 83. Basketball Hall of Famer Willis Reed is 78. Singer Carly Simon is 75. Actor-director Michael Lembeck is 72. Rock singer Tim Finn of the Crowded House and the Finn Brothers is 68. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor is 66. Rock musician Mario Calere is 46, and jazz musician Joey Alexander is 17. Looking at the zodiac or horoscope, Cancers. Channel your energy into something meaningful. Helping others will be gratifying and will give your reputation a boost. What you have to contribute will change your life as well as those of others. Leo, deal with inevitable changes professionally. Go over your options and consider what you can do to make your life easier. Hone your skills to fit the current economic trends. Virgos, my birth sign. Take the throttle. If you want something done, do it yourself. Add a unique touch to whatever you do and you won't be disappointed. Offer solutions to gain support. Libra, don't overload your plate. Refuse to let anyone bully you or back you into a corner. Keep busy and focus on your goals and on being and doing your best. Scorpio, learn from experience and use your intelligence and charisma to convince others to see things your way. An unexpected opportunity will turn out quite well. Sagittarius, stay in your comfort zone, regardless of what others are doing. Take care of your health and heart. Getting involved with the wrong person or group will turn out to be costly. Capricorn, positive change will evolve from heart-to-heart discussions. Restructure your surroundings to meet your needs and ease your stress. Think carefully about how you live your life. Aquarius, sensitive issues will escalate. Nurture meaningful relationships and do your best to bring the family together. A physical challenge will help curb stress. Offer peace and love, not discord. Pisces, express your thoughts, listen to suggestions, and perhaps prepare to make a change to the way you work and whom you may associate with personally and professionally. Don't let uncertainty cost you. Aries, revamp your image, initiate personal growth, and update the way you present yourself to the world. Use social media to market your skills. A romantic gesture will enhance a meaningful relationship. Taurus, change can be useful when carried out correctly. Think your strategy through and use intelligence, not extravagance, to get what you want. Don't let your emotions or stubbornness take the reins. And finally, Gemini. Home is where the heart is, and making a couple of shifts to the way you run your household or deal with those you live with will result in a better environment. And as always, a horoscope is an entertainment feature, not based on scientific fact. Looking at the funerals today in the Acadiana area, Helen Abier, the Liturgy of the Word in Melanson Funeral Home in Opelousas is at 1 p.m. Enola Gilchrist, Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Catholic Church in Mere at 2 p.m. Ernest Landry Jr., David Funeral Home at 1 p.m. James Laverne, St. Charles Borromeo Catholic Church in Grand Coteau at 11 a.m. Jonathan Mesh, Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist in Lafayette at 3 p.m. Werner Menard, St. Anne Catholic Church at 1 p.m. in Weston. Romero Sr., Delhome Chapel of Flowers in Lafayette at 1 p.m. Okay, let's get back into the news. State burning through $1 billion unemployment fund. Money could be depleted in 14 weeks by Christian Mossbrucker, staff writer. Louisiana has burned through nearly half of the $1 billion fund it used to pay benefits to unemployed workers and could deplete the fund within 10 to 14 weeks if jobless claims triggered by the coronavirus pandemic remain near current levels. The unemployment fund also has fallen to a level that will automatically trigger higher wage taxes on businesses starting in January to help replenish the fund. The same trigger would reduce the maximum $247 unemployed workers receive weekly to $221 in January. Even if the fund runs dry, unemployed workers will still get payments because the state is required to keep paying eligible claims and has options to borrow additional funds, as other states have done, said Ava DeJoy, Executive Director of the Louisiana Workforce Commission. This is an area we are certainly beginning our research to borrow money from the federal government. It's not an option to not pay benefits, DeJoy said. We must make our trust fund solvent. With about $550 million remaining in the fund, the agency is basing the 10 to 14 week depletion estimate on current payouts of between $40 million and $50 million each week to more than 300,000 unemployed workers in the state. It's a level the state has exceeded since roughly mid-May, even with businesses being allowed since May 15th to partially reopen and a phased recovery after stay-at-home orders were imposed in mid-March and triggered worker furloughs and layoffs. Currently, most unemployed workers also receive $600 per week that is federally funded on top of their state unemployment stipend. The federal subsidy, which some have complained encourages people to stay on unemployment because they make more money than being on a lower wage job, is set to expire at the end of July. The Louisiana Unemployment Trust Fund, which took in $269 million last year, had more than $1 billion in the bank on September 2019 and was on track to hit $1.13 billion by September this year. That would have been the highest fund balance in the past decade. Businesses are still paying taxes into the fund, and collections were down about 10% in the first 3 months of the year, according to the Louisiana Workforce Commission. For the April-June quarter, employers are being allowed to delay payments. Employers pay unemployment insurance rates on the first $7,700 of worker wages to the state. We don't know how much we really actually received for the second quarter from businesses, DeJoy said. It's a sobering realization. The Louisiana Workforce Commission is evaluating its options to replenish the fund, which could borrow money from the Federal Reserve at 0% interest, as some other states have done. Before the economic recession, Louisiana was better positioned than many other state funds that have already run dry. Louisiana had an adequate solvency level. It was not terribly high, but it was above the minimum amount that the federal government suggests, said Jared Walzak, Director of State Tax Policy at the Tax Foundation in Washington, D.C., an independent nonprofit. When a state does begin to run out of money, it applies for loan advances from the U.S. Treasury, so benefits are not interrupted. California, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Massachusetts, New York, Ohio, Texas, and West Virginia have authorization to borrow money to replenish unemployment trust funds. The problem is longer term for states that need to pay these advances back. They have the potential to generate a significant amount of debt, which means you typically raise unemployment taxes on businesses, Walzak said. Beyond that, the economy is especially fragile, and raising the taxes penalizes companies that are already being insensitized to hire workers through other federal stimulus programs. When you have a crisis of this magnitude, rates can skyrocket just at a time when businesses are trying to rehire employees, and the entire policy goal is to get these people back into these jobs, he said. A lot of this is going to be a timing issue. How long states can hold out not raising unemployment insurance rates, and ultimately how high they can go after this. After an oil bust bludgeoned Louisiana's economy in the 1980s, the state borrowed money to cover an otherwise bankrupt unemployment trust fund. In 1987, the state sold $1.3 billion in bonds to repay the $780 million the state owed the Federal Unemployment Trust Fund. That same year, the state cut benefits and increased the tax on businesses. The bonds were repaid ahead of schedule by 1994. Then 1 year later, the legislature approved a mechanism that automatically increases or decreases workers' benefits and increases the tax rate on businesses depending on how much is left in the fund. Those triggers are still in place. If there is between $400 million and $750 million in the state trust fund this September, businesses should expect in January to pay taxes on the first $8,500 in wages rather than the current $7,700 in addition to a 10% increase on the employer's tax base. Maximum benefits are going to unemployed workers, which are from $247 per week to $221, which would be the lowest in the nation. The tax change would impact more than 80,300 businesses with fewer than 10 workers and more than 22,900 businesses with fewer than 50 workers. There are only about 1,200 companies with more than 500 workers that pay taxes in Louisiana. So the lion's share of the higher unemployment insurance taxes would largely fall on small businesses, DeJoy said. Because it's funded through the Unemployment Trust Fund, the state also would halt any funding for its incumbent worker training program. The program assists businesses and industry in developing skills of existing employees to improve productivity and grow companies. Some states have taken funds approved by Congress and the Coronavirus-Inspired CARES Act and used it to replenish unemployment trust funds. So far, Louisiana lawmakers have voted to carve out $300 million for small business grants and other programs. It's unclear what might happen in Louisiana's political arena without a federal funding. If I had to choose between CARE Act money going into the Unemployment Trust Fund or making sure a laid-off worker pays rent, I would go for the rent through rental assistance programs, said Jan Moeller, director of the Louisiana Budget Project. The existing unemployment system is already weak for workers, Moeller said. While the trust fund may have been healthy, the social safety net was not, he said. There are still another nearly 200,000 workers who are independent contractors slated to lose federal benefits at the end of July. The extra $600 per week federal stimulus does not impact the state unemployment trust fund situation. We are living in a false economy right now, and we're going to see the real economic toll on workers no longer working soon, Mueller said. Top Republican calls on bidders on state contract to withdraw. Robideau, DeCure, part of legislative task force that created program by Sam Carlin, staff writer. Two members of the legislative task force who comprise one of the 11 bidders for a potentially multi-million-dollar contract to run a small business grant program have prompted calls by at least one top Republican lawmaker to drop out because of their role in standing up the program to begin with. A list of bidders released by Treasurer John Schroeder's office shows a coalition of Jason DeCure and Joel Robideau among the 11 firms vying for the contract to run the state's $300 million small business coronavirus relief program. DeCure, a business lobbyist and tax expert, chaired the task force created by legislative leaders that pushed the grant program through the legislature. Robideau, a former Lafayette Parish mayor, president, and lawmaker, served on the task force as well. Their bid on the contract to administer the program, first reported by the Baton Rouge Business Report, prompted House Speaker Pro Tem Tanner McGee, Republican from Houma, to call on DeCure and Robideau to withdraw their bid. These are people who were deeply involved in setting up the program, McGee said. I don't think they should benefit from it. DeCure and Robideau did not respond to repeated calls over 2 days seeking comment. Okay, moving on. House advances plan to study police tactics 99-0 by Will Centel, staff writer. Despite angry comments at the end of the debate, the Louisiana House on Wednesday overwhelmingly endorsed a plan to study police practices statewide and all but guaranteed final approval of the proposal. The vote was 99-0, returning the measure to the state Senate for consideration of the charges. The Senate earlier approved a similar version of the proposal 34-0. Most of the House discussion was tame after private talks earlier in the day among Representative Ted James, Democrat from Baton Rouge, the House sponsor, House Majority Leader Blake Miguez, Republican from Erath, and others. Both sides agreed to remove an earlier sticking point referencing in the resolution to George Floyd, the black man in Minneapolis who died last month after a white police officer held him on the ground with his knee on his neck for nearly 8 minutes. But the placid discussion turned angry in the suddenly hushed House when State Representative Tony Bacala, Republican from Prairieville, cited statistics that he said show far more white people than black people die at the hands of police officers, and that police officers die at a much higher rate than both white and black citizens. If we are going to have the conversation, let's make sure we're going to have the conversation, Bacala told the House. Let's not limit what we're going to speak about. A visibly agitated James then responded that backers of the resolution agreed before the debate not to go into details of their complaints. But since we are here, I ain't going to run from it, he said. If we wanted to fully have the conversation, we should have watered down the bill, James said, a reference to the removal of the George Floyd language, and another line that said black men are 3 times more likely than white men to be killed by police. He said the resolution could have had 5 pages of names of black people killed by police. After the vote, Bacala, a retired sheriff's deputy, told the House he was not a party to private talks on the legislation early in the day. Representative James, if you are offended by these comments, I apologize, but I was not made aware that we were not allowed to extend the dissertation on this matter, he said. The task force includes state lawmakers, peace officers, criminal justice, and social worker professors from LSU and Southern University, and the president of the Louisiana Sheriff's Association, and college students. Senators seek halt to pay raises for state employees by Sam Carlin, staff writer. Louisiana state senators are pushing to halt pay raises for state workers and to use millions in unclaimed property to pay for tax breaks for businesses as they work to finalize the state's budget plans in the final days of the special session. The Senate Finance Committee on Wednesday announced the state's budget bills with language that temporarily bans pay raises for state workers until October, a move that would save about $60 million. If the economy improves, Finance Chairman Bodie White, Republican from Central, said the legislature will return the money to the various agencies to move forward with the raise. If not, it will be used to plug holes in the budget. The legislature is expected to return to Baton Rouge for another special session in October. And finally, wrapping up the news today with a sports story. Deggs comfortable with roster. Cajun make it through draft relatively unscathed by Kevin Foote, sports and staff writer for The Advocate. These days, all situations are fluid, but Raging Cajuns baseball coach Matt Deggs said it's possible the team's 2020 fall baseball roster is set. Like programs all over the country, the roster is going to be very different from the one that ended the shortened spring season. Right now, I really like where we are, Deggs said. I think we're basically done rebuilding roster unless Nolan Ryan falls into your lap. We know what we have. Now it's a matter of getting everybody in and healthy and getting to work in the fall. There are various reasons for the changes. There was the draft process, which led to starting shortstop Hayden Cantrell going to the 5th round in Milwaukee and senior pitcher Brandon Young signing a free agent deal with Baltimore. Neither of those losses was surprising to the staff. In fact, Deggs said he's excited the 5-round draft feeling fortunate. He exited the 5-round draft feeling fortunate. You kind of figure you're going to lose X, Y, and Z, he said. Basically, we got lucky. If we had a normal draft and been able to finish out the season and gotten hot, we probably would lose 5 or 6 guys. That was a gift to our program. The Cajuns roster will also include 3 returning seniors getting an extra year of eligibility because of COVID-19, and outfielder Brennan Bro and pitchers Jack Burke and Austin Bradford. There wasn't anything unplanned about the 6 Cajuns that entered the transfer portal in Jonathan Wyndham, Tremaine Spears, Justin Green, Brock Batty, David Williams, and Colton Frank. All of these developments, however, left the staff with a little bit of work to do. Offensively, the class included a trio of potential infield solutions in Sam Bianco from Oxford High, Bobby Latta from Bossier Parish CC, and Clayton Dean from Tomball, Texas, and 2 outfielders in Connor Higgs from Texas City and Carson Rackenfort of Port Neches, Texas. While many other players aren't able to get summer at-bats or innings on the mound because of the coronavirus, catcher and first baseman Julian Brock and Arigati are playing in the Collegiate Summer Baseball Invitational. I left Julian behind the plate, but I also think he can be a fine first baseman to excel at Brock's future. The key is getting his bat in the lineup. I think we all saw that in the spring. Some guys need a chance to get some at-bats, and that's just not the case this summer for a lot of guys. So moving forward, a lot of it will be dictated by what you do individually this summer to prepare for the fall. And that wraps up this morning's news broadcast, folks. We appreciate you tuning in and listening. We do this every Monday through Friday. We do the live news from the Acadiana Advocate with all local and statewide news that fits into that hour from 9 to 10 a.m. every Monday through Friday. We appreciate it. And it's brought to you every morning during the week by volunteer readers like myself. If you're interested in joining our volunteer reading program, just go to aocinc.org, find the form to fill out for a volunteer newspaper reading, and come and join the family. Be a part of what we do here. So as always, this has been Bruce Cohen. I appreciate you tuning in. Please be safe, healthy, and when you go outside, take all precautions. This virus is still very, very strongly with us, as I've been reading this morning about. There's been a spike in cases in Lafayette Parish and Acadiana and throughout the state. So please be careful going out there. Just wear a mask and be careful and be safe. And you don't want to get it, and if you do have it, you don't want to pass it to others. So just please play the game for a little bit longer. We'll try to get through this together. So, and as always, be kind to each other. Have a great day.